My wife cheated on me 4 times with a guy our son's age. My wife Sarah, 46F, and I had been married for 23 years. We have 2 children, a son, 21M, and a daughter, 19F, both in college. From the outside, we seemed to have it all. Beautiful home, successful careers, and what I believed was a rock-solid marriage built on trust and mutual respect. How naive I was. The first signs of trouble appeared about 18 months ago. Sarah started working late more often, constantly checking her phone and being secretive about her plans. At first, I brushed it off as stress from her recent promotion to CFO at her company. Tried to be supportive, picking up more slack at home and giving her space. But as weeks turned into months, the knot in my stomach grew tighter. One night, unable to sleep, checked our shared iPad. What I found shattered my world into a million pieces. There were messages between Sarah and a man named Jake, 25M, yes, younger than our son. The messages were explicit, detailing their encounters and plans for future meetups. But that wasn't all. There were also older message threads with another man, Chris, 43M, colleague from her company. The affairs had been going on for over a year, overlapping each other. I felt like I was drowning. The woman I had loved and trusted for over 2 decades had been living a double life, juggling not 1, but 2 affairs. I wanted to confront her immediately, to scream and rage at her. But something held me back. Cold, calculated part of me that I never knew existed took over. I decided to plan. Over the next 6 months, I became a shadow version of myself. On the surface, I played the role of the loving, unsuspecting husband perfectly. But behind the scenes, I was meticulously gathering evidence and planning my revenge. I hired a private investigator to follow Sarah, Jake, and Chris. I recovered deleted messages, collected hotel receipts, and even obtained video footage of her with both men on separate occasions. I discovered that she had met Jake at a charity event where he was a volunteer, and their affair had been going on for about 8 months. The affair with Chris was older, starting shortly after her promotion when they began working closely together. During this time, Sarah's behavior became increasingly erratic. She'd come home late, make excuses about work events, and barely pay attention to me or our kids when they visited. There were times when she'd be overly affectionate, almost guilty in her attentiveness, only to become distant and irritable the next day. It was like living with a stranger wearing my wife's face. I documented 4 specific instances of infidelity during my investigation. A weekend business trip where she was actually at a beach resort with Jake. Late night work emergency that was really a rendezvous with Chris at a hotel near their office. Earl's night out ended with her going home with Jake. Charity gala where she disappeared for an hour with Chris. Each discovery was like a knife to my heart, but I forced myself to remain calm and stick to my plan. As Christmas approached, I finalized my strategy. I compiled all the evidence into detailed dossiers. 1 for each family member, 1 for her company's board of directors, remember that morality clause? 1 for Jake's girlfriend, yes, he had one, and 1 for Chris's wife. On Christmas Eve, while Sarah was supposedly at a work event, she was with Jake, I put my plan into action. I sent the dossiers via courier to everyone. Our kids, our parents, siblings, close friends, her company's board, Jake's girlfriend, and Chris's wife. Each dossier had a note explaining the situation and my decision to end our marriage. Then I vanished. I had already moved most of my belongings to a new apartment, transferred half of our joint accounts to a private one, leaving her share untouched, and hired a shark of a divorce lawyer. I changed my number, email, and deactivated all my social media. The aftermath was apocalyptic. From what I've heard through mutual friends and my lawyer, Sarah came home to an empty house and divorce papers. Our kids were devastated and initially refused to speak to her. Her family was shocked and disgusted by her behavior. She was immediately suspended from her job pending an investigation. Jake's girlfriend dumped him publicly, creating a scene at his workplace. Chris's wife filed for divorce and also informed their company about the affair. Both Jake and Chris quickly distanced themselves from Sarah. Sarah tried desperately to contact me. She left voicemails crying, begging for forgiveness, swearing she would change. But I remained resolute. The only communication I've had with her is through my lawyer. It's been 3 months since that fateful Christmas Eve. I'm slowly piecing my life back together. I'm in intensive therapy, reconnecting with old friends, and even cautiously dipping my toes into the dating pool. There's a woman I knew from college, Lisa, 47F, who's been incredibly supportive through all this. We've been taking things very slow, both aware of the emotional minefield we're navigating. The repercussions of my actions continue to ripple outward. Sarah's mental health has reportedly deteriorated significantly. She's lost her job, rarely leaves her house, and has apparently lost an alarming amount of weight. Our kids are torn, angry at her betrayal, worried about her well-being. Edit 1. I'm overwhelmed by the response. Thank you all for your comments and awards. I'll try to address some common questions. Yes, all evidence was legally obtained. My lawyer vetted everything before it was sent out. Regarding the kids, they're in therapy both individually and as a family without Sarah. It's a slow process. They're coping. Many asked if there were earlier signs. In hindsight, there were subtle changes in behavior and routines, but nothing that screamed affair until the last few months. About Sarah's job. She was officially terminated last week after the company's investigation concluded. Edit 2. I appreciate the concern many of you have expressed about Sarah's mental health. While I understand the sentiment, I'm not in a position to help her right now. Her family is aware of the situation and is reportedly trying to get her into therapy. Edit 3. To clarify about Jake and Chris, Jake was a young philanthropist Sarah met at a charity event. Chris was a colleague at her level in the company. I have no intention of contacting either of them or their partners. Edit 4. Some suggested I should have given Sarah a chance to explain. After months of reading their messages and seeing the evidence, I felt there was nothing left to explain. She had made her choices repeatedly. Edit 5. Regarding my relationship with Lisa, it's very new, and we're taking things extremely slow. She's been a friend for years and understands I'm still healing. We're both cautious about not rushing into anything. Edit 6. A few have asked about legal repercussions for sharing the information. My lawyer assured me that, as long as the information was truthful and obtained legally, it's not considered defamation. The morality clause in Sarah's contract made the disclosure to her company relevant. Final edit. Thank you all for your overwhelming responses. Your comments have given me a lot to reflect on. I realize my actions were extreme, and while many of you support what I did, I'm beginning to see how it might have been excessive. I acted out of deep pain and anger, and while I don't regret leaving Sarah, I'm not sure if the public exposure was necessary or helpful in the long run. I'm continuing with therapy, focusing on healing and being there for my kids. As for Sarah, I'm not ready to forgive, but I do hope she gets the help she needs. This experience has taught me a lot about trust, betrayal, and the complexities of human relationships. It's also shown me the darker side of my own personality, capacity for calculated revenge that I never knew I had. Moving forward, I'm trying to focus on healing and growth rather than anger and retribution. It's a daily struggle, but I'm committed to becoming a better version of myself. Not for Sarah or anyone else, but for me. Thank you, Reddit, for listening, for your insights, and for giving me a lot to think about as I navigate this new chapter of my life.